Chapter 41. 41, Let Them Feel Pain. In a different way. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 41. Chapter 41. Let Them Feel Pain. In a different way. For a long while, Nagato woke up quietly, with a wise gleam in his eyes. He now had countless ideas and sufficient strength and was ready to reform the shinobi world drastically. Unfortunately, Nagato sighed. He could only let the pains walk for him because of physical reasons, and the pains still had a certain limit in the distance. This was too inconvenient. Nagato, drink this medicine. When Nagato was lamenting, Konan suddenly handed over a small green medicine bottle. And without saying a word, she pulled open Nagato's mouth and poured it down. When a group of people in the exam space saw this scene, they suddenly narrowed their eyes quietly and speculated one by one. Is that little green bottle Konan's additional reward? What could it be? Maybe enhancing strength or healing one's body. A cooling sensation went down his throat. Nagato was stunned to find that the cooling sensation had spread throughout his body in that instant. Then, an unbearable, terrible itch appeared on him, as if countless ants were rhythmically moving through his body, gnawing at his heart in unison. Konan watched Nagato nervously. At the moment when the water of life was poured into him, Nagato's body began to swell like a balloon. Dozens of black chakra sticks inserted behind him had been squeezed out of the body by the newly grown muscles. At the moment when the black rods were separated from the body, all the pains immediately fell to the ground together. But Nagato had no time to evaluate the others. At the moment, he was leaning on the wheelchair with one hand, trembling to get up. I recovered. Nagato looked at his lower body in disbelief. Although he was still unstable, he did stand up. What exactly did Konan give me? It made him recover so quickly from his incurable injuries. Even his drained chakra body recovered altogether. This was simply a miracle. Nagato shook his fist excitedly. Now, he was more than a few times stronger than he was earlier. It was such a massive difference. This exam is over. Please leave the exam room in an orderly manner. A light door made of fog suddenly appeared, and the crowd understood that this was the exam space starting to drive them away. With a twinkle in his eye, Nagato picked up a black rod of chakra that had fallen from his back, bent it directly into a bracelet, and slipped it over his hand. Suddenly, all the pains lying on the ground opened their eyes and dashed towards the exit. The black rod of chakra was Nagato's means of controlling the pains. Although it was more efficient to control them while it was inserted into his flesh than affixed to the surface of his body, at the moment, Nagato disregarded these because of his own powerful chakra. Quickly occupying the exit, Nagato's feet moved. His body suddenly rose up, and his red cloud robe was billowing in the whistling wind as he passed through the doorway and landed on the ground outside the door. 7 figures in a semicircle directly surrounded the exit. Sky Walk. The other people of Akatsuki looked as if they were stirred and also moved. They also left the exam space and also stood at the entrance. Orochimaru looked at Jiraiya, who looked glum, and slowly walked out, followed by Zetsu and then Jiraiya. The fog dispersed slowly, and the weight on Uchiha Obito's body disappeared. He quickly got up, took out a robe from space, and covered himself with it. His feet moved, he rose up in the air and rushed out of the exam space. Zetsu. Out of the exam space, Uchiha Obito was still in the air when he roared. A huge wooden thorn appeared in his hand. He directly thrust it towards Zetsu. Obito. Black Zetsu gave a hateful cry and looked at the incoming wooden spike with a disdainful smile. Uchiha Obito dared to attack him with wood release. Does he really think that his wood release was awakened by himself? Heh. Zetsu didn't move. Uchiha Obito suddenly became stiff and fell from mid-air. He was horrified to find that half of his body couldn't move, as if he was controlled by another person. What made him feel more terrified was that half of his body suddenly bulged with a whole white human-shaped creature. This is White Zetsu. Black Zetsu looked at Uchiha Obito with disdain and told White Zetsu in Obito's body to strike directly. The moment White Zetsu made a move, Jiraiya's figure appeared in front of Obito. Ninja Technique. Wild Lion's main technique. Jiraiya's spiky hair instantly became longer and directly bounded Uchiha Obito together with the White Zetsu on him, saving Uchiha Obito. Swish, 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 swish. At the same time, the other Akatsuki members had moved to surround Zetsu, with Obito, Jiraiya, Orochimaru, and Itachi in the middle. They quietly waited for Nagato to speak. As soon as Nagato gave the order, they would instantly strike and turn the 5 people in the middle into dust. Uchiha Itachi stood quietly. He was the only one who didn't do anything since they came out of the space. If it had been the former me, all 5 of you would be dead by now. Nagato spoke slowly, his voice indescribably strange. The original lofty and cold voice, at the moment, had a different inexplicable tone of affinity. Killing people cannot solve a dispute. War cannot achieve peace. Jutsu is the primary productive force. Zetsu, leave the ring, and I'll let you go. Nagato's words stunned Black Zetsu. He didn't expect Nagato to take the initiative to let himself go. Could he be afraid of my relationship with Uchiha Madara? Black Zetsu had lived for thousands of years, but at this moment, only such a possibility came to mind. Even so, it was good for him. It's just a delay in the plan, and for the time being, he could still keep the underground White Zetsus from being exposed. Black Zetsu hesitated for a few seconds, took the guy ring directly off his right pinky finger, and threw it at Nagato. Then with a deep look at Nagato's Rinnegan and an eye roll at Uchiha Obito, Zetsu's body shook and sank to the ground. After waiting underground for a while, seeing that Nagato really didn't do anything else, he left with the countless White Zetsus who had just arrived in this area in a big wave. Orochimaru, take your ring. Work hard to achieve peace in the world. I'll let bygones be bygones. Orochimaru blinked and pulled out a ring from his pocket that had the word "ku" and put it on his left pinky finger. Glancing at Jiraiya, Orochimaru walked out of the encirclement without saying a word, and joined the group of the remaining 3 Akatsuki members. No one knew whether it was intentional or not, but Orochimaru joined the encirclement right next to Haiden. Haiden-san, can you give me the black cloud robe in your hand first? When Haiden heard Orochimaru's words, he subconsciously hugged the robe in his arms tighter, stared at Orochimaru with wide eyes, and looked at Orochimaru with intimidation. You rotten snake, you just came back, and now you want my robe. TSK, keep dreaming. Nagato didn't pay attention to Orochimaru's side. He took his eyes off Jiraiya and settled on Itachi. Itachi quietly lifted the shoe ring on his hand, joined the group encirclement, silently expressing everything with his action. Uchiha Itachi's heart was in turmoil right now. Besides, he didn't have much contact with Jiraiya, and he hated Uchiha Obito even more and wanted to get rid of him. Seeing this scene, the corners of Nagato's mouth picked up slightly. Jiraiya, I'm going to have to keep you here, for now, to keep you from delivering the message. Nagato then stepped into the encirclement. This time, he was ready to take matters into his own hands and capture Jiraiya. Yes, to capture Jiraiya, not to kill him. He would subdue Jiraiya, and then he would act as a teacher and educate Jiraiya. And make Jiraiya agree with him. In this way, he would have one more like-minded person. By the way, the rest of Akatsuki should also study together. And every time after listening to his lectures, each person must also submit a report. Nagato was well aware of how fast the members of Akatsuki would make progress and how painful it would be. Because in the exclusive reward. That's how he got here, binge. One of the reasons why I delete the reviews. Check para comment and chapter comment. Chapter 42. 42. Are you practicing the 8 gates? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 42. Chapter 42. Are you practicing the 8 gates? Nagato, don't go on the wrong path again. You already know that your idea is wrong. Come back to Konohagakure with me, and I'll get justice for you and Yahiko. Jiraiya looked at Nagato with awe. He knew that he was no match for Nagato. He fought with the original 6 pains, but only 3 were destroyed with his full strength. Now, fight with Nagato in his prime. He dared not even to think about it. Justice. Nagato smiled and shook his head. Since he was beaten by the old man with that cane a few times, Nagato understood how important it was to be able to laugh. The reason why Nagato shook his head was that Jiraiya still didn't understand the situation. The exam space could revive Hoshigaki Kisame, which proved that there was no difficulty in reviving a person for the space. What's more, Kabuto was Orochimaru's spy, which he knew. That was to say, Orochimaru also had a jutsu to revive the dead. He had more than one way to bring Yahiko back to life. What kind of justice was needed? Nagato didn't want to waste time with Jiraiya. From the video analysis of the first question, he had learned that if he didn't have such a smart mouth like Uzumaki Naruto did, the best way to persuade the opponent was to defeat him in battle. Tie him up and convince him slowly. Uzumaki Nagato was about to make his move when suddenly Uchiha Obito, who was tied by the hair, reacted mentally and his Mangekyo Sharingan slowly rotated. Immediately afterward, a pitch-black void appeared, from which 2 figures, one black, and one green, jumped out. Nagato raised an eyebrow, not expecting these 2 to appear in this way. When Hoshigaki Kisame, who was carrying Samehada, saw the newcomers, his face suddenly froze, and his expression was unnatural. Hatake Kakashi and Might Guy came. Kakashi and Guy had just landed. When they saw that Jiraiya had subdued Uchiha Obito, they were overjoyed. They got into Kamui's dimension space at the end of the live broadcast. Sure enough, when Obito opened his Kamui's dimension space, they could also appear beside Obito. At this moment, seeing the other Akatsuki members standing at attention, the 3 of them suddenly put their backs against each other and took precautions. I don't have much chakra, I can't take everyone away. I must leave one person behind to break the trail. The one who spoke was Kakashi, who was already a little pale. He could barely unleash his Sharingan powers and take 2 people away. Jiraiya was just about to say that he should remain when he heard Might Guy directly say, "You take Jiraiya-sama and Uchiha Obito first. They know a lot more important information. I'll stay and break the trail." Hearing this, Jiraiya took a deep look at Might Guy. Strength, understanding, and putting others first. It was with shinobi like Might Guy, Konoha was able to realize the title of the first shinobi village in the shinobi world. When the situation was urgent, Jiraiya immediately decided, okay, leave it to Guy. Kakashi, let's go. Kakashi glanced at Guy, his eyes fluctuating several times. While gritting his teeth, he directly opened Kamui's dimension, bringing Jiraiya and Uchiha Obito into the dimension space. Kakashi was very remorseful at the moment. If he knew Jiraiya would subdue Obito, he wouldn't have asked Guy for help and came on his own. Right now, Guy had to stay there to stop them from chasing them. With the current state of Akatsuki's people, Kakashi had already thought of what would happen to Guy, which made him even more remorseful. Don't think too much, Kakashi. This is Guy's choice. Kakashi looked at Jiraiya but found that although Jiraiya had tears in his eyes, he was full of perseverance. Uchiha Itachi looked at the motionless Nagato with surprise, and so did the other members of Akatsuki. They didn't expect the leader would simply let Kakashi and Jiraiya go. They didn't believe that their leader had no means to stop Kakashi. What's more, if he was bent on keeping Jiraiya and a move to stop them, could Jiraiya still be able to walk? The leader was no longer calm as water. Rather he was deep like the sea. Could it be that the leader really believed that killing people cannot solve a dispute? The Akatsuki crowd quickly shook their heads. Akatsuki, as the biggest war-monger in the shinobi world, would the leader of their organization, who was obviously super strong, convince people with virtue? Wouldn't that be a joke? While the Akatsuki members were cursing in their hearts, Might Guy was sizing everyone up. You're Akatsuki. Guy felt that the present situation was somewhat similar to that of decades ago. At that time, his own father was facing the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, and now he was facing the even more terrifying Akatsuki. Therefore, Might Guy was ready to go all out. Now, it's my turn to be the green beast. Guy's body suddenly burst with a green light. This was the appearance of chakra burning, also a symptom of the opening of the 3rd gate of the 8 gates. The 7th Gate of Wonder. Might Guy was condensing momentum, ready to jump straight to opening the 7th gate, when suddenly Nagato spoke a word, which stunned him. Wait a minute, Might Guy. You're trained in the 8 gates. Might Guy was stunned. How did Nagato know this? The chakra in his body that had approached the Gate of Wonder point abruptly and slowly faded away. Yes. How do you know that name? Guy stared right at Nagato and suddenly noticed a crow falling on Nagato's shoulder. The crow slowly turned around, and blood-red windmill eyes suddenly caught Might Guy's eye. Sharingan. Illusion technique. Damn it. Guy was shocked. The chakra that had been retreating was about to condense and break open the Gate of Wonder when he suddenly found the ground beneath him shattering, taking him with it into the sky. At the same time, 2 voices sounded. Chibaku Tensei. Chibaku Tensei. Nagato, together with Deva Path, used Chibaku Tensei. The Akatsuki members took out their fastest speed to run and create distance. After turning around, they looked at their leader in horror. They didn't expect that the first place in the binding list, the Chibaku Tensei, was actually held by their leader. What's more, they didn't expect the leader, who was so powerful, to have no martial ethics. Making a sneak attack with Deva Path was just. But it also interrupted Might Guy's technique outbreak. They understood the devastation in Might Guy's heart. For a while, the Akatsuki crowd looked puzzled. Hoshigaki Kisame, in particular, looked at Might Guy, who was sealed in the stone ball and was totally dazed. Fuck. Is this still possible? Directly finish the guy before he gets a chance to condense his chakra. Hoshigaki Kisame felt as if he had mastered the new fighting style. He learned how to trick people. Nagato controlled the rubble to be attached to the bind in succession and felt that the struggle had disappeared. He controlled the 10 meters wide ball to come closer to him. Don't look at the fact that the Chibaku Tensei ball didn't look too big from a distance. Its power far exceeded the one used to seal Uzumaki Naruto. After all, this was Nagato and Deva Path in their prime together. Nagato patted the stone ball, the corners of his mouth smiled again and looked at the stunned eyes of the crowd. He explained. As you can see, Might Guy is the #1 taijutsu user in the shinobi world, according to the shinobi world list. Even the 8 gates is the #1 in the taijutsu list. So why would I want to fight him head-on? Read latest translation, chapter 60. Everyone was awesome. Only Danzo was taking a beating. On Pat Rayon. Visit patrayon.com/bingonaireyudo. Chapter 43. 43, Shocking. Akatsuki Group went to kidnap a child. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 43. Chapter 43. Shocking. Akatsuki Group went to kidnap a child. He didn't even use 2-hand seals. He directly struck first, abruptly suppressing the other and gaining a person with 2 spots in the list. This envy Hoshigaki Kisame was feeling in his heart right now. It's so cool. It's so awesome. Looking at Might Guy, who couldn't even fight back, was directly sealed. Hoshigaki Kisame only felt relieved. At this moment, in his heart, the fear of being driven to suicide by the Might Guy instantly disappeared into thin air. His own destiny had also been changed. This made Hoshigaki Kisame a little excited. Looking at his leader, Hoshigaki Kisame looked forward to asking, "Leader, is he dead?" "No, not even injured. He was just sealed. I'm going to take him to Konohagakure." Konohagakure. Everyone in Akatsuki was surprised again. They didn't expect the leader to move so fast. "Are you going to kill Uzumaki Naruto before he grows up?" Heiden's face showed a malicious smile. He looked at Hoshigaki Kisame and Kakuzu, and then at Uchiha Itachi. "Leader, take me with you. I want to send all those Nara clan people to see Jashin-sama." Haiden smiled grimly and then added, "And that Shikamaru." "No." Nagato shook his head. Now, he increasingly felt that the Akatsuki members' thoughts were too backward. It was almost impossible to compare with him, this academic master, who scored over 90 points in every subject. It seemed that the ideological education of the Akatsuki members must be put on the agenda. Nagato decided in his mind that he would teach them to study when this trip to Konoha was done. "It's not just me, it's everyone in Akatsuki. We are all going to Konohagakure together." Ah! Everyone in Akatsuki was surprised again. They didn't expect Nagato would be so generous this time. Did he realize that one of the reasons for Akatsuki's failure was that he was fighting on his own? At this thought, the members of Akatsuki suddenly began to feel excited. Taking the whole group to Konoha. Just thinking about it was exciting. They really wanted to see the expression on the Hokage's face when they appeared together. Before they could imagine the old face of the third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, Nagato had spoken again. "Conan, re-screen the candidates for the Chunin exam in Konoha this time and have all eligible genin from Amigakure take it." Then Nagato looked at others, including Orochimaru. "The rest of you, first sneak into Konoha and look for Uzumaki Naruto and Hyuga Hinata's whereabouts. If you get the chance, bring them out, and remember, don't hurt them." Dot. Dot. Akatsuki's members looked at Nagato with question marks in their eyes. They didn't understand the meaning of this sentence. Sneak into Konoha. No problem. Investigate the whereabouts of Uzumaki Naruto. No problem. But who the hell is Hyuga Hinata? What's the use of that chick other than being tough and resistant to beatings? And they looked at each other, and all saw the disbelief in each other's eyes. Akatsuki was all set to infiltrate Konoha at the risk of being discovered for the sake of kidnapping a child. All the members of Akatsuki looked at Conan together. They knew that at this time, only Byaku could change the leader's orders. Conan was stunned by Nagato's orders and changes. She looked at Nagato's bright appearance and frowned slightly. She thought that the change in Nagato was definitely related to the exclusive reward from the exam space, but she couldn't imagine what kind of reward made Nagato change so much. "What about you, Nagato?" "Me." When he heard Conan's question, Nagato froze. "Did I express myself so unclearly? I'm taking back the sealed Might Guy to Konoha. What else is there to do? To exchange people. First, negotiate with each other with the usual etiquette. If it doesn't work, then battle. Talk to Konoha with affection, ask Konoha to hand over the little younger brother and future sister. In law. If that doesn't work, exchange them for Might Guy. If they disagree, the members of Akatsuki should have found a clue of where the two are and bring them out secretly. If that doesn't work, I still have other ways. I have other things to do. Ladies and gentlemen, Akatsuki was founded for the sake of peace in the shinobi world. Now, the true way of peace lies in my hands. I hope that all of us will work together and make contributions towards peace in the shinobi world. Akatsuki looked at their leader speechlessly. Looking at the current leader, they suddenly missed the original cold pain a little. Leader is getting more and more Chunibyo. Deidara shook his head and turned to leave. He wasn't pain, and sneaking into Konoha, not a direct attack, required a lot of preparation. The other Akatsuki members also left, and soon, only Nagato and Pains, who had burning gazes, were left in place. Education, we should start with children. 2 days later, 2 figures, one big and one small stepped into Amigakure. They made no other move. Just stepping into the Amigakure and letting the rain pour down on them. They were none other than Momochi Zabuza and Haku, who came from somewhere else. Momochi Zabuza squinted at Amigakure. When he saw that the rain that covered the village was a jutsu, he was slightly pleased. He came with a secret method to locate Samahata, and now it seems that he was right. Akatsuki should also be here. Whoosh! Whoosh! Just as Momochi Zabuza looked around, pieces of white paper suddenly floated in front of him, forming a human figure and finally turning into Konan. Who are you? Byaku. Momochi Zabuza's husky voice sounded, I am Momochi Zabuza, an S.rank renegade shinobi from Kirigakure. I want to join Akatsuki. Konan looked at Zabuza. She turned and jumped to the building above Amigakure, come with me. Through the Rainmaker Jutsu, Nagato discovered Momochi Zabuza as soon as he entered Amigakure. At this moment, sensing that Konan had brought the other party up, Nagato stopped studying. Not long after, Konan brought Momochi Zabuza to him. Hearing that Momochi Zabuza was going to join Akatsuki, Pain's eyes lit up. He didn't expect that conveying Akatsuki's name would have such an advantage. He looked at Momochi Zabuza expectantly, without seeing him move. The terrifying pressure instantly weighed on Momochi Zabuza's body. Pain controlled the pressure to increase slowly. When Momochi Zabuza was about to collapse, the pressure on his body suddenly became lighter. Akatsuki's ring, which had a character on it, floated in front of him. From today onwards, you are Akatsuki's guy. We are committed to achieving peace in the shinobi world. Then Pain told Momochi Zabuza about the essence of Akatsuki and the plan to leave for Konoha soon, then asked Momochi Zabuza to get ready to leave with him tomorrow. This shocked and amazed Momochi Zabuza at the same time. He didn't understand why this current leader of Akatsuki was different from the one in the exam space. As if he was behaving differently. Konan handed Momochi Zabuza a red cloud robe, which she had newly made in the past 2 days. Konan was scared by the army of people begging for clothes led by Kakuzu and supplemented by Orochimaru. These days, she was busy verifying the new genin in Amigakure and occupied coordinating the Akatsuki members' infiltration into Konohagakure. She already had a headache. Glancing at Haku, Konan's eyes lit up. At this time, there were only 2 new genin in Amigakure. With this girl, it was just enough to form an additional small team to take the Konoha Chunin exam in 6 months. Translator. Yes. Konan said Haku is a girl. / Binge. Read latest translation chapters on Pat Rayon. 15+ chapters ahead. Visit patrayon.com/bingonaireuto. Chapter 44. 44, Calculation and the Early Start of the Chunin Exam. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 44. Chapter 44. Calculation and the Early Start of the Chunin Exam. Time was like the plumpness of a young girl. If not grasped, it would pass by in a flash. 3 days later. Entrance of Konohagakure. Sarutobi Hiruzen wore his Hokage hat and Hokage cloak. Behind him was a group of Konoha shinobis. To his left, Danzo stood coldly with his arms around his chest. Next to Danzo was Jiraiya, who had just returned yesterday. On the right, there were the 2 Hokage advisors. This was the highest welcome specification Konohagakure could offer right now. Sarutobi Hiruzen puffed his pipe purposefully, thinking about the recent troubles. Yesterday, Jiraiya carried the unconscious Hatake Kakashi back to the village. He said that in order to save him, Might Guy was most likely killed in the line of duty. Hatake Kakashi was in a coma because of the serious shortage of chakra in the process of helping him escape. Sarutobi Hiruzen believed in him. What Hatake Kakashi and Might Guy did, how could he not know? He also knew that Jiraiya was saying this because he didn't want him to pester these two about leaving the village without permission. However, Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't expect that. Might Guy would stay behind. Although they didn't see Might Guy's body, in that case, even if he was really a number 1 in the Exam Space's Shinobi World list, the probability of Might Guy's death was close to 100%. In other words, a sure death sentence. He knew the 8 gates, so naturally, he knew the cost of opening the 8 gates. Therefore, Sarutobi Hiruzen only hoped that a few more Akatsuki members could be eliminated before Might Guy's death. Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed. Because of the live broadcast, the Shinobi world had become a mess right now. No matter where he was, all he could hear was discussions about the live broadcast. In particular, the civilians living in Konoha these days were frantically submitting their applications to leave the village, saying that Konohagakure was too dangerous and they wanted to leave. It was hard to persuade them over and over, just to stabilize them. But then, Jiraiya brought back information on Akatsuki. Uzumaki Nagato had recovered and became even stronger. Just when Sarutobi Hiruzen thought this was sufficient anxiety, the Kages of the other 4 shinobi villages surprisingly wanted to visit Konoha together at this time. By the way, there was also a neutral country. Mifune of the Land of Iron was also coming. Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed again in his heart. Of course, he knew what these people were doing here. That was the only good thing that's come out of the recent period. However, to his displeasure, the meeting was held in Konohagakure. In the past, the 5 Kage talks wouldn't be held in one of the 5 major shinobi villages to ensure security and unnecessary trouble. They would choose a neutral country or shinobi village for talks. While Sarutobi Hiruzen was thinking, yellow sand suddenly swept in front of the crowd in front of Konoha. The sand dispersed, revealing several figures. Raza, Chiyo, Maki, Temari, and several other Suna shinobis. Sarutobi Hiruzen was just about to say something when 3 figures covered with lightning came whistling by. Arriving in front of Konoha, the 4th Raikage dissipated the chakra armor and dropped Killer Bee and Darui. Where is Konoha's noble green beast, Might Guy? Ice loud voice directly shouted out, making the faces of some people in Konohagakure who knew about what happened look ugly. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a deep breath and pressed down his anger. His voice was somewhat disappointed. 2 days ago, Jonin Might Guy was killed in the line of duty. What does the 4th Raikage have to say? Dead. I was stunned. Then, after sweeping his eyes at Jiraiya, whose face was incomparably ugly, as if he thought of something, he shrugged his shoulders. He came here mainly to ask Konoha for information, and beating Might Guy was just an interlude. Now that Might Guy was dead, how could he compete for titles with a dead man? Gentlemen, sorry I'm late. While speaking, Mifune, from the Land of Iron, came running from a distance with a group of people. I nodded his head, glanced sharply at the people brought by Mifune, and found that they were all senior samurais. They waited for a while, and Terumi Mei walked up slowly with a group of people. After waiting for a while, Anoki appeared. At this point, the Kages of the 5 shinobi villages and Mifune of the Land of Iron gathered for the first time. Gentlemen, I came to Konoha this time. Besides sharing information on Akatsuki, I want a spot for Iwagakure in Konoha's Chunin exam. Just as they sat down, Anoki directly spoke. He didn't bother to beat around the bush with these juniors, directly explaining his purpose in coming. Exam quota. Sarutobi Hiruzen paused. He didn't expect Iwagakure to come up with such an idea. Originally, Konoha's Chunin exam was to be held 6 months later. After all, Uzumaki Naruto's class of students wouldn't take the graduation test until 2 days later. His target is Naruto. Jiraiya immediately thought Inoki had such an idea. Speaking of Uzumaki Naruto, Jiraiya hadn't had time to see the child since he returned to the village. The original plan for Konoha's Chunin exam didn't include Iwagakure. Sarutobi Hiruzen tapped the stem of his pipe slowly and methodically, then looked at the other 3 Kages. Is that what you all have come for? Sarutobi Hiruzen was delighted to see the 3 people thinking at the same time. Just as he was about to feign refusal, he heard Inoki's sorrowful voice ring out. Sarutobi Hiruzen, don't be too quick to refuse. If you were Akatsuki and knew that Konoha would stop you in the future, which village would you be attacking first? You. Sarutobi Hiruzen's face suddenly showed an angry expression. When he was about to hit the table, he heard Inoki continue. Your Konoha is now the first shinobi village to be potentially attacked by Akatsuki, and even now, members of Akatsuki are already lurking in your Konohagakure. That's impossible. Sarutobi Hiruzen continued to put on an angry face. What Inoki had thought of, he had naturally thought of long ago, and now he was merely retreating to advance. With Jiraiya around, Konoha had the advantage of the information, and it was easy to set a trap for these guys. As for Akatsuki's infiltration into Konohagakure, it was impossible. Now, Konoha's Root and Umbu were monitoring the entire Konohagakure, and any suspicious person would be checked out. Akatsuki couldn't hide inside here at all. Akatsuki aims to capture the tailed beasts, and we all have Jinchuriki in our villages, so we are all their targets. Akatsuki's strength is not something that one of our shinobi villages can fight against on its own, so we must unite. In our current situation, we certainly can't form an allied force. After all, we can't just rely on a live broadcast to trust each other. However, we can start an offensive and defensive alliance against Akatsuki. Share all the information on Akatsuki. When an Akatsuki member is found, or one of our shinobi villages is found to be an Akatsuki target, the other villages must send someone to help. I agree. Ice eyes flashed. This plan seemed to be fair to all 5 villages, but it was actually a kind of fishing in troubled waters for Konoha. He loved to take advantage of the situation. Raza glanced at Sarutobi Hiruzen and said nothing. His Sunigakure was once defeated, which almost made them a vassal state to Konoha. Suna originally had a quota in this Chunin exam, and he was trying to destroy Konoha together with Orochimaru through this Chunin exam. But he didn't expect such a thing to happen. We are simply making an offensive and defensive alliance against Akatsuki. Raza's gaze fluctuated for a moment as if to emphasize and support the opinion. They took the bait. Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled coldly in his heart. A feeling of intellectual superiority came over him. Inoki was right, Akatsuki's first target would definitely be Konoha. Therefore, bringing all the villages into the water together was Sarutobi Hiruzen's strategy. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes fluctuated. The first goal was achieved. Now, it was time for the second goal. The battle has begun, and the children cannot be allowed to continue to rest on their laurels. I'm going to advance Konoha's Chunin exam in 5 days. In addition, to show our sincerity this time, all genins in your shinobi villages and students from ninja school who graduated this year can take part in the exam. ... Sarutobi Hiruzen's words suddenly surprised the others, and then they were overjoyed and rushed to agree. They had such a plan, but they didn't expect Sarutobi Hiruzen would propose it himself. Immediately afterward, the 5 people regulated and elaborated on the above 2 points. On the other hand, Mifune pestered Jiraiya, who was looking for Naruto, and asked him about Sage Mode. A day later, all of Konoha Ninja School's current graduating class graduated early and were informed that they would be divided into separate classes and directly follow the other genins to take the Chunin exam in 4 days. Sarutobi Hiruzen's big move immediately attracted the attention of those who cared. That night, a pure white snake climbed out of Konohagakure, arrived outside Konoha, and climbed into the hands of a village girl. After circling in the hands of the village girl, the snake spat out a note and then disappeared. When she opened the note, she read, Orochimaru.Sama, Konoha's Chunin exam will start early in 4 days. Raza sent Maki to contact me, ready to continue pushing the Konoha's annihilation plan. Suna will be responsible for creating chaos. At that time, you and he will jointly kill Sarutobi Hiruzen. After that, the other shinobi villages will not give up this opportunity to strike, and Konoha will definitely be seriously damaged. In addition, I was recently targeted and unable to pry into Uzumaki Naruto's whereabouts, surrounded by a team of Umbu and rooters taking turns watching every day. I suspect they think I am the Kabuto mentioned in the exam space. Chapter 45. 45. You are the Jashinist Haiden.Sama, right? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 45. Chapter 45. You are the Jashinist Haiden.Sama, right? In Konohagakure, Akatsuki's undead duo transformed into an elderly couple walking along the streets of Konoha. They were the first team to infiltrate Konoha, and for that reason, the two of them moved quite a bit. Hey, what is the leader's problem? All of us at Akatsuki could have just gotten Konoha out of the way. Why go to all this trouble? Listening to Haiden's complaints, Kakuzu, who took the form of an old woman, glanced at Haiden coldly. As the most frequent teammate changer in Akatsuki, Haiden was the longest teammate who followed Kakuzu. Not because he was immortal, but because his heart was useless to Kakuzu. His head didn't have a bounty on it either. That was all. That's something you can say to the leader. Haiden sniffed, looked at Kakuzu speechlessly, and cried out. Have you noticed that there are more ninjas from other villages? Isn't it because of the impromptu earliness of Konoha's Chunin exams? I heard that in this batch, many students graduated early. Haiden touched his flabby face and looked over to a dirty little girl on the side of the road, who he felt as if she had been looking at him. When there are more people, there will be chaos. Now, most shinobi in Konoha are maintaining law and order, which is also beneficial to our actions. Kakuzu nodded his head. He had found several bounty hunters among the shinobis from these villages. These people came to Konoha. It seems that we should speed up. The leader and new members are already on their way. If we can't find Uzumaki Naruto and Hyuga Hinata before the leader comes. Let me see. Haiden didn't wait for Kakuzu to finish his sentence before walking towards the little girl across the street with his black pretentious walking stick. Haiden learned when he came here that Uzumaki Naruto was now about the same age as this girl. Instead of looking aimlessly, it was better to ask the child of the same age as Naruto. Hello, little girl. Haiden bowed, greeted the young girl. He was just about to continue to get close when he suddenly noticed the young girl was staring at him with a burning look. That look, including 3 points of surprise and 7 points of joy, made Haiden feel his face nervously. What's wrong with my face? The little girl looked around at other people in the street, saw that no one was paying attention to them, motioned for Haiden to squat down, and then whispered in Haiden's ear. Believe in Jashin and gain eternal life. An apostle of Jashin. Haiden's eyes suddenly widened. His body stepped back and looked at the little girl in front of him with horror. He had been out of Yugakure for so long and had never met any other Jashinists. He always thought he was the only one in the whole shinobi world, but he didn't expect to meet one in Konoha. Is she also? Without waiting for Haiden's inquiry, the girl directly pulled Haiden and ran to one side. Haiden gave Kakuzu a look and let her take him by the hand. The girl took Haiden and ran for a while, then arrived at a dilapidated house. She sat Haiden down excitedly, poured Haiden a glass of water after panting. Then squatting in front of Haiden, with her hands on her face, she happily looked at Haiden. Hey, you are the Jashinist Haydn. Right? PFFF. Haydn almost spewed out a mouthful of water. His getup wasn't just a transformation, but also Kakuzu's Earth grudge and some other stuff. Konoha's shinobis didn't recognize him. How did a child recognize it? Haydn had long confirmed that this little girl was just an ordinary girl with no chakra in her body. Otherwise, she wouldn't be reduced to the lower levels of Konoha. Where are your parents? Looking at the dilapidated house, Haydn frowned. The house looked like it hadn't been lived in for a long time, and he didn't understand why the girl would want to live here. He wasn't sympathetic and felt sorry for the little girl. He simply wanted to know if the girl's parents were also faithful followers of Jashin-sama. They were burned to death by the village. I took advantage of the disorder to escape to Konoha. The little girl's face was calm without a trace of sadness. No outsiders are allowed to enter Konoha. I came along with a caravan doing business with Konoha, and I was left behind in Konoha because I was too much trouble for the caravan. How did you know that I'm Haydn? I've seen you before. The little girl said justifiably, and H's dirty face was full of joy. A few days ago, she saw Haydn on the live broadcast and knew that the other party also believed in Jashinism. Therefore, Haydn gave her a sense of long-lost affinity. Unexpectedly, there are people who believe in Jashin-sama. I thought that after my father and mother died, I was the only one. With that, she looked at Haydn expectantly. Haydn-sama, may I join you in conveying the teachings of Jashinism? You can't. He has other things to do. Kakuzu appeared inside the house at some point, listened to the little girl's inquiry, and directly helped Haydn refuse. Haydn was somewhat conflicted at the moment. On the one hand, he wanted to help the little girl follow the teachings of Jashinism. On the other hand, he had to complete the task from the leader. You came to Konoha for a purpose, right? The little girl wasn't discouraged. In her past, she had been rejected many times, and had long known that she must be worthy of someone else's help. If I can help you accomplish your purpose, Haydn-sama. Will you take me with you? Haydn's eyes lit up at the words. He knew that after completing this task, Akatsuki would certainly have a period of calm, and he could take advantage of this time to find other Jashin believers with her. Do you know Uzumaki Naruto and Hyuga Hinata? Haydn spoke with some eagerness. He couldn't wait to bring them both to the leader now, and then he would go with the little girl to find Jashin's congregation. You're talking about him. The girl suddenly realized. If it were anyone else, she really wouldn't have known, but Uzumaki Naruto was now a popular figure in Konohagakure. He's been in and out of the Hyuga residence a lot lately. I've heard people say that he's going to be the Hyuga clan's son-in-law. I don't know if that's true or not. However, I know that he now eats ramen without paying for it because I've seen it with my own eyes. Many shops warmly invited him to eat. They even hung up a sign that says Naruto doesn't need to pay, saying that it was for Naruto to take care of them in the future, but Naruto only eats ramen. Come on, and I'll take you to find him. After saying that, the girl took Haydn and went out again. Kakuzu saw the two leave and leaped gently to the top of the eaves. There, a kunai was pressed against a stack of explosive tags, with a note next to it. There was only one sentence in the note, and the time marked happened to be today. Uzumaki Naruto will take this Chunin exam, creating chaos and opportunities. Kakuzu was surprised. No wonder he saw so many bounty hunters and signs on the road. It turned out that their target was Uzumaki Naruto. Kakuzu put the note back, glanced at the explosive tags, jumped down, and chased after Haydn and the girl. In Amigakure. Konan looked at the 20.4 genins in front of her, waved her hand, and marched toward Konoha. Originally, for Konoha's Chunin exam, 6 months later, Amigakure planned to send 7 teams, a total of 20. 1 people. Among them, Conan's favorite team was the team composed of Oboro, Mubi, and Kagari. But now that Nagato had asked for all the shinobis who meet the requirements to participate, Conan turned Amigakure upside down and managed to find 2 newly promoted genins. It so happened that Momochi Zabuza arrived with Haku. Otherwise, Conan didn't know where to find a genin to make a team for them. Speaking of Haku, Conan was very surprised. He was a boy with beautiful eyes. More importantly, he also had ice release, a rare bloodline limit. Because of this, Conan paid a little more attention to the team he was in. With this attention, Conan discovered something very interesting. Binge. If we cross 550 power stones today, I will release 1 extra chapter tomorrow. You can also read the next 15 plus chapters ahead on Pat Rayon right now. Visit patrayon.com/bingonaireyuto. Chapter 46. 46, Hayden's Anger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 46. Chapter 46. Hayden's Anger. Uzumaki Naruto is eating ramen inside. I also want to eat some ramen. No money, L.C, you're a bad man, I don't like you. Kanna puffed up and looked at Kakuzu. She brought him here, and he wouldn't even invite her to eat 1 bowl of ramen. Kanna looked at Uzumaki Naruto, who was devouring his food in the ramen store, with deep envy in her eyes. Eating ramen, free of charge. He must be very happy. Hayden saw the little girl pouting. Stretching out his hand, he took out a money bag from under Kakuzu's sleeve and threw it to Kanna. Yes. Kanna cheered and rushed into Ramen Ichiraku. Boss, 3 bowls of ramen. There are too many people around him, and we can't get exposed. We can't lay hands on him right now. Kakuzu glanced around Ramen Ichiraku and closed his eyes slowly as if the tired old lady was closing her eyes. After Kakuzu finished speaking, he suddenly found Kanna walking out with a bowl of ramen. Looking at Kakuzu, she tilted her little head and handed the noodles to Hayden. Hayden froze, looked at Kakuzu, smiled warmly, and took the ramen. Kanna threw the money bag to Kakuzu and skipped her way back. Jealous, right? Ha ha ha. Hayden blew a few breaths in Kakuzu's direction, looked at Kakuzu's ugly face, laughed, and took a big bite. Kakuzu got up and was about to leave when he found Kanna holding a bowl in front of him. Hey, big bad guy, this is for you. Kakuzu froze, his pair of eyes narrowed. He did not expect that this small girl had even bought a bowl for him. Watching Kanna run back again, Kakuzu suddenly spoke up. This little thing of yours, it's quite interesting. That's right. Boss, do it. I've watched the surroundings. That kid is alone. Not far away from the undead duo, a dozen wandering shinobis stared at Ramen Ichiraku. They weren't professional bounty hunters. However, the price offered by the underground bounty house was too high, so high that even if they knew that Konoha was at the deep end of the pool, they still snuck into it. Wait a minute. The person who was called the boss squeezed his somewhat damp palm, and his heart was incomparably nervous. Although this wasn't the first time he had done such a thing, it was the first time he looked for trouble in a major shinobi village. At the same time, on the other side, several figures were looking at this group of wandering shinobis, and the presence at the head of the group snorted coldly. I never thought that these damn guys would dare to steal business from us. Wait a minute, let them do it first. Let them attract Konoha's attention, and then we'll make our move. The boss is wise. Meanwhile, in the Hokage's office. Hokage-sama, the Kazekage looking for you. Raza is looking for me. Sarutobi Hiruzen was stunned. At this time, all the candidates taking the Chunin exam had arrived in Konoha, and the Kages of the other shinobi villages should all be resting in their exclusive places. What does he want from me? He said that he knew something about Orochimaru and wanted to consult with you. Orochimaru. Sarutobi Hiruzen once again wondered how Orochimaru had anything to do with Raza. Let him come in. At the Uchiha clan's area, a figure in a black robe stood there quietly. In front of him was the ancestral monument of the Uchiha clan. Uchiha Itachi looked at it for a long time and finally concluded that the tablet had been tampered with. Uchiha Itachi instantly had a murderous look. As expected, behind the Uchiha riots, it wasn't just the Uchiha clan who encouraged his father to rebel. There was another conspiracy behind this. Do it. Aji, Asen. You lead the men to create chaos and attract the attention of the others. Ashi and Igo, you come with me. Seeing that Uzumaki Naruto was leaving after eating some ramen, the leader of the wandering shinobis gave a direct order. A dozen figures scurried out together, kunai explosive talismans in their hands shot indiscriminately, and suddenly a series of explosions appeared on the streets of Konohagakure. Boom! Boom! The sound of explosions continued. Umbu and Root, who were scattered all over Konoha, moved simultaneously and rushed towards where the explosion took place. Looking at the explosion not far away, Kakuzu and Haiden frowned at the same time. They didn't expect someone to launch an attack at this time. Isn't that just stupid? Kakuzu squinted at the figure rushing towards Ramen Ichiraku and frowned. Such a crude attack couldn't be from his own colleague. Then, Kakuzu saw several figures behind these people, and suddenly his heart fell. Be careful. Uzumaki Naruto heard the explosion, looked at Kanna, who was walking out the door with a bowl of ramen and directly threw her down. A shattered log with fire shot from the side of the two and plunged into the opposite wall. Uzumaki Naruto got up, picked up Kanna, and ran. Opposite the two, watching Kanna being taken away by Uzumaki Naruto, Kakuzu and Haiden looked at each other and quietly followed after them. When the wandering shinobi saw Uzumaki Naruto flee and was just about to give the order, a brilliant glint of a blade appeared. In the next moment, he was already on the ground. Immediately afterward, countless slashes lit up, and all the wandering shinobis were eliminated before they had time to react. Confirmed, all dead. Confirmed, all dead. Kakashi, wearing a cat-faced mask, listened to his subordinate's report and pulled his own knife out of the bounty hunter leader's chest with an expressionless face. These guys, who thought they were well disguised, didn't know that both the wandering shinobis and the bounty hunters were exposed as early as the first moment they entered Konoha. The reason why they were allowed to live until today was because of the orders from the third Hokage to make an example out of them. Naruto. The Root team is following him. Can it be solved quietly? Haiden looked at the figure with a mask jumping on the roof in front of him, with a thoughtful look in his eyes. We can't. Kakuzu shook his head. The other three squads were all elite shinobis of Konoha. It wasn't difficult to kill them, but it wasn't something they could do quietly. Something's going on. Kakuzu was stunned and saw the masked figures jumping from above, enclosing Naruto and Kanna in the middle. Naruto had just shielded Kanna behind him, and before he could finish, a hand slash struck him on the back of the neck. Naruto's eyes went dark, and he directly passed out. Carrying Naruto on his shoulder, the man glanced at Kanna. Crack. A pair of hands suddenly reached out from the back of Kanna's neck, covering her head with one hand and holding her chin with the other, and gently twisted it. Kanna suddenly lost her life. Everything happened in a flash. Before Haiden and Kakuzu could even react, Kanna had already been killed by Konoha's Root. Looking at Kanna slowly falling down, Haiden paused. Then instantly flew into a rage. He didn't understand why the Umbu of Konoha would kill her. Just because she saw Uzumaki Naruto being abducted. It turned out, Konoha was no different from those bounty hunters. Not even as puritanical as a bounty hunter. Dare to harm Jashin-sama's follower. You. All of you have to die. Haiden's voice sounded like the wail of evil spirits. He slowly pulled out his retractable spear and gave it a gentle tug. Haydn, calm down. Kakuzu stretched out his hand and grabbed Haydn's shoulder, trying to stop Haydn, only to find that Haydn's rickety-looking body was already standing tall, and somehow the red cloud robe had already appeared on him. My people were killed. You're telling me to calm down. Now, I finally know why there are so few followers of Jashinism. If the wicked are not removed, it's difficult for believers to survive. Haydn looked at Konoha's umbu not far away, got up slowly, and walked towards them. The tip of the black retractable spear swept against the ground, making a harsh sound. Kakuzu, what is your faith? Money. Sure enough, you are a bad man. Haydn stopped and looked back at Kakuzu. In the past, I only knew to preach. Now, I know that punishing evil is more important. Wait for the leader to collect our bodies. Seeing Haydn's self-exposure, Kakuzu shrugged indifferently, and his body also went back to his original form. I must be insane, going crazy like this with you. He knew that the kages of the 5 major shinobi villages were now in Konohagakure. Akatsuki. It's Akatsuki's Kakuzu and Haydn. The two showed up and were about to snatch Uzumaki Naruto from the root members. Quick, tell Danzo-sama, quickly. Akatsuki's undead duo have invaded Konoha. Chapter 47. 47, Protective Akatsuki. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 47. Chapter 47. Protective Akatsuki. Bonus chapter, What Happened? Akatsuki Organization. Akatsuki is coming, Akatsuki is invading. What? So, should we move? Konoha is too dangerous too. I blame you. Saying Konoha is safe and tricking us into coming here. Me. Stop blaming me. Who would have thought the Konoha, which was obviously super strong, would also be overly destructive? In the house, a couple of civilians shivered and took shelter. From time to time, a burst of running footsteps sounded on their roof. That was Konoha's shinobis, assembling rapidly. What about Raza? The third Tsuchikage, Anoki, solemnly floated in mid-air. Behind him was a group of skilled shinobis from Iwagakure. What a good scheme, Sarutobi Hiruzen. Anoki's mind was blazing. He didn't see Sarutobi Hiruzen's setup until this moment. A good scheme. Now it seemed that the reason why Sarutobi Hiruzen had advanced Konoha's Chunin exam, on the one hand, as he said, was to train the new strength of the shinobi village and not let them get too comfortable. After all, at their current age, the battlefield was at least a little over 10 years ago. On the other hand, this was Sarutobi Hiruzen's baiting plan. He knew that Akatsuki was most likely to attack Konohagakure first, so he wanted to draw Akatsuki out through the Chunin exam while 5 shinobi villages were gathered. Unexpectedly, Akatsuki really took the bait. Anoki grunted coldly, ready to fight Akatsuki off, then find Sarutobi Hiruzen to cause trouble. How dare you treat me as a tool? Kazekage-sama ordered us to help Konoha fight first. He will arrive later. Maki heard Anoki's follow-up question and spoke without humbleness. Now, Suna and Oto were ready to attack, just waiting for the Kazekage to succeed. With Konoha without a leader and Akatsuki and other shinobi villages working together, Konoha would be destroyed in one fell swoop. It's just. A trace of worry flashed in Maki's heart. At this time, did Kazekage-sama make the right choice? You all deserve to die. Haydn ran between the members of Konoha's root, one by one. The retractable spear in his hand penetrated the head of a shinobi, and the mask on the person's face shattered open. Without looking, Haydn charged straight for the others. Haydn's heart was full of anger. He finally found a Jashinist, but Konoha killed her. He wanted to kill them all. He ignored the opponent's sharp blade thrusting at him, allowing it to strike his black as iron red cloud robe, emitting a dang sound. The next moment, Haydn swept the retractable spear in his hand, and the guy directly died. Fire release. Searing migraine. Kakuzu instantly arrived and sliced a shinobi's neck. Then, he controlled his Earth Grudge doppelganger to spit out a fire release, killing a shinobi who was about to attack Haydn from behind. Haydn, it's time to go. Kakuzu had no religion and wasn't a believer. He couldn't appreciate Haydn's anger at the moment. He didn't even understand what Haydn was so mad about. Isn't it just a woman? What for? Lightning release. Double lariat. A hoarse, low roar sounded, making Kakuzu pale. That jutsu. There was no mistaking it. It could only be that person. The rakeage. Kakuzu looked in the direction of the voice, his intermediate armament haki was opened, and his whole person instantly looked dark. At the next moment, a figure with lightning release chakra gathered all over his body rapidly rushed in. The thunder roared, and after only 1/10 of a breath, the other person had already rushed to Kakuzu. His elbow was raised, directly hitting Kakuzu's face. Boom! Kakuzu didn't have any chance to react at all and was directly prevented from falling over. Behind him, a broken mask fell out of Kakuzu's red robe, and Kakuzu's body shook, standing there as if nothing was wrong. Kakuzu looked pale and looked at the broken mask at his feet. He didn't expect to defend himself with armament haki but was still killed by a blow. This is horrible. Was the fourth rakeage that powerful? Kakuzu's eyes rolled and absorbed the fire-attributed doppelganger behind him into his body, and only after doing so did he feel a little more at ease. At the same time, the fourth rakeage had appeared in front of Haydn and jumped gently above Haydn's head. Lighting chakra converged on his feet, splitting fiercely from top to bottom. Guillotine drop. Bang! At this moment, Haydn's whole body also became pitch-black. His hand was holding the retractable spear to block the fourth rakeage's foot. The retractable spear was also covered by Haydn with the armament haki. Otherwise, it will be kicked to pieces by this rakeage. Crack. Crack crack. The sounds from the retractable spear make Haydn's expression change. Looking at the cracking retractable spear, Haydn looked angry. The retractable spear suddenly shattered. Haydn advanced, ignoring rakeage's slamming fist. The tip of the broken spear stabbed the fourth rakeage in the eye. Haydn's mouth opened, ready to catch the blood spurting out directly with his mouth. Then he would use the curse to kill the fourth rakeage instantly. Elbow bolt. Looking at Haydn's attack, I didn't dodge. He gathered chakra in his elbow and slammed it towards Haydn's chest. The punch, which was obviously thrown afterward, landed directly on Haydn's body. Haydn's armament haki was directly smashed, and the tremendous force directly threw him back. Tisk, tsk, tsk, if it isn't Haydn and Kakuzu. Why are they so miserable? Deidara's cheeky voice came from behind Haydn, and in the next moment, Haydn felt a pair of palms against his back, trying to counteract the force on him. And then, Haydn felt the person behind him flying backward while carrying him. Shit! Why are you so aggressive, Sasori? Sasori, help me quickly. Boom! At Haydn's scream, a puppet appeared from nowhere behind the two, directly stopping them. That Deidara kid. Anoki drifted away, looking at Deidara and Haydn, who fell to the ground, his face changed slightly. It seemed that Akatsuki sent more than just Haydn and Kakuzu this time. Anoki looked at the chakra line linking to the puppet, his expression changed. He looked up, and his face instantly shifted dramatically. When everyone saw Anoki's demeanor and looked up, they suddenly paled and acted even worse than Anoki. How? How is this possible? Above the crowd, a handsome boy wearing a red robe and orange hair quietly floated in the sky. If a few of them came, then so be it. But he was surrounded by hundreds of puppets wearing red robes. These puppets were filled with all kinds of weapons, and chakra lines were connected to the central person's body, filled with the aura of depression. Performance of 100 puppets. It's Sasori. Chiyo slowly emerged from the crowd. She just heard Inoki's cry. Because she didn't know where Raza had gone and was worried that soon as Maki wasn't enough for this occasion, she came out. Unexpectedly, she saw Sasori. The only way to break performance of 100 puppets, besides killing the manipulator, is to cut the other party's connection to the puppets in the first place. As soon as Chiyo's words were spoken, Terumi Mei blatantly attacked. Her bloodline limit, lava release, could cover all the puppets in a wide range. Moreover, her melting apparition technique was very corrosive, which could disconnect the chakra line. Lava release. Melting apparition technique. Terumi Mei took a large breath and spat out a large amount of acid from her mouth in the next moment, directly coating the puppets in the sky. Who? A figure in a red cloud robe flashed from the many puppets, looked at the incoming acid, opened his mouth, and ejected a large amount of water, enough to form a lake. Water release. Water colliding wave. The attacker was none other than Hoshigaki Kisame, who had been hiding among the puppets to protect Sasori's puppets. Ha ha ha. Shinobis, are you amazed? I can fly. Deidara laughed out loud. His feet moved, and his body suddenly rose from the ground, as if stepping on an invisible ladder, and ran up in a fluid motion. Seeing this, Haiden and Kakuzu, not caring about their wounds, initiated skywalk and went straight up into the air. Below, Konoha and the countless shinobis from the 5 major shinobi villages looked pale as they looked up at the terrifying scene above. 5 Akatsuki members wearing red robes were surrounded by hundreds of red-robed puppets as if 5 demon lords were floating above Konohagakure with a group of evil spirits ready to bind their souls. Suddenly, everyone looked to the other side of the sky, where several figures were whizzing by. They walked in the air at a strange pace, and the figure at the end was carrying a man on his back. That's not all. The figure in front of these people, with one hand in the sky, controlling a 10-meter wide black ball in his hand, approached. They were so fast that they arrived on top of the crowd in the blink of an eye. After seeing their faces, everyone felt as if they were plunged into an ice cave. Seeing their cold eyes, some people had started to go weak in the legs and fell to the ground in fear. Some even pissed themselves. Who is it, who is bullying my Akatsuki members? Chapter 48. 48, Conclusion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 48. Chapter 48. Conclusion. Meanwhile, in Konoha's Hokage's office, Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at the mysterious Raza with a calm face. Raza, the Kazekage, wasn't strong enough, and his wisdom couldn't fix the situation. He couldn't see the bigger picture, let alone making Sarutobi Hiruzen, Inoki, and Terumi Mei stop looking down on him. After all, under his management, Sunagakure gradually became the weakest of the 5 shinobi villages in the shinobi world. Just like Kirigakure, under the reign of the 4th Mizukage. What's more, he was almost overtaken by Terumi Mei. Suna was weak, which was why Sunagakure was attached to Konohagakure to a certain extent. Of course, the main reason was their failure in the 3rd Shinobi World War. Magnet release. Golden prison. Raza's hands quickly made seals, and then his hands slammed together. A large amount of golden sand spilled out from under him. The golden sand rapidly spread out, and the Hokage's office was completely filled and sealed in an instant. Inside the gold prison, Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Raza with a grim face. The pipe in his mouth fell to the table. Because Akatsuki appeared, Sarutobi Hiruzen was afraid that something would change, so he deployed the Konoha secret guards around him to check the situation. Now, the staff in Hokage's office could only fight by themselves. Raza's technique surrounded the interior of Hokage's office with gold sand. No one could see anything from the outside, and no sound could be transmitted outside. The clerical staff below wouldn't even know what was going on up there. Raza, what are you doing? Are you going to start a war between Suna and Konoha? War. Raza looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen with scorn as if he had heard a funny joke. He stared at Sarutobi Hiruzen and took out a small white snake from his pocket. Snake. Sarutobi Hiruzen froze. Then, he felt the somewhat familiar chakra from the snake and felt startled. A flame jutsu erupted from his mouth and shot towards the white snake. Orochimaru. Fire release. Great fireball technique. Just when the white snake was about to be struck by the blast, the little snake's big mouth stretched and spat out a bigger snake. Then, like a reversed nesting doll, each snake got bigger and bigger. In the end, the snake directly spat out a soggy man from its mouth. Orochimaru. He was wearing Akatsuki's robe, covered with mucus. When he saw the fireball, he flicked his wrist, and a slender sword appeared in his hand. The hand holding the sword shook gently, and in the humming sound of the Kusanagi sword, the sword turned pitch black. Heh! At the sound of Orochimaru's soft snort, the Kusanagi sword slashed through the fireball, which unexpectedly split it in half and streaked away from Orochimaru, exploding behind him, blowing up a wave of sand. This. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Orochimaru incredulously. After all these years, has his sword skill become as strong as this? In the shinobi world, jutsu confrontation was normal, but cutting through jutsu with a weapon was next to impossible. Because cutting jutsu required not only nature transformation, chakra, and combat skills, but also other more difficult things. Except for Konoha's White Fang and Mifune, Sarutobi Hiruzen hadn't heard of anyone who had this ability in recent years. Even Hatake Kakashi's Chidori that could cut through some jutsu, but that was only jutsu, not his father's blade. No, it's not Orochimaru, it's that black armament haki. After thinking everything over, Sarutobi Hiruzen paused. Jiraiya never gave him information that armament haki would have a restraining effect on jutsu, could it be Orochimaru's own improved armament haki? Orochimaru looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen and didn't explain. He took out a scroll and patted it gently. 2 coffins with 1 and 2 written on them suddenly appeared in the sand prison. Raza's golden sand prison was very strange. It isolated sound and prevented the opponent from performing summoning techniques, so Orochimaru purposefully prepared this. Magnet release. Gold dust imperial funeral. Raza raised the golden sand all over the sky and attacked Sarutobi Hiruzen. Because of the tight space, he couldn't exert all of his strength. After all, gold dust imperial funeral was a move that didn't distinguish between friend or foe. Sarutobi Hiruzen leaped up high and attached chakra to his hands, attaching himself to the ceiling, thus avoiding Raza's attack. While they were fighting, Orochimaru's neck suddenly stretched out strangely and bit Sarutobi Hiruzen. Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't escape, Orochimaru had bit his foot. Sarutobi Hiruzen, today is the day you'll die. Raza sneered. His hands clap on the yellow sand on the ground. A golden sand spike emerged in mid-air and aimed at Sarutobi Hiruzen. Magnet release. Gold dust world method. A thin bamboo shoot like golden sand spike shot flew toward Sarutobi Hiruzen. Sarutobi Hiruzen raised an earth release to block the flying thorns, and more than a dozen shurikens were thrown toward Raza. Shuriken Shadow Clone Technique. Under Raza's shocked eyes, more than a dozen shurikens directly turned into hundreds of thousands. The dark shurikens were like rain. The most terrible thing was that the force behind every shuriken was frightening. Raza rolled up the yellow sand and surrounded himself in it, and countless shurikens stabbed on the golden sand shield. They jabbed in one tip at a time. From the inside, black dense blade tips covered the entire golden sand shield. It was so dense that a normal person would instantly pass out in fear after seeing this. Orochimaru, why aren't you moving? Raza's angry voice was about to continue to curse, but he suddenly felt something and looked back. But, it was too late. Orochimaru's head was hovering ghostly behind him. A shuriken was curled around his tongue, and it stabbed straight into Raza's heart. Poof! Blood instantly erupted. Orochimaru moved his neck and pulled his head back. Orochimaru, you betrayed me. Raza looked at Orochimaru angrily, pointing one hand at Orochimaru and holding a sand pillar with the other hand as his body shook. He felt his power being rapidly stripped away and felt his vision rapidly blurring. The next moment, with a bang, he directly fell to the ground. Only then did Orochimaru's sinister voice ring out. Some people can only be killed by me. Oh, it's ironic that the untrustworthy end up dying at the hands of the even more untrustworthy, Raza. Sarutobi Hiruzen sarcastically looked at the dead Raza and then looked at Orochimaru. Since the other party had turned against them at this time, he must have left the Konoha village completely. Fortunately, after Raza's death, the summoning technique could be used. Summoning technique. Enma. Watching his sensei's movements, the corner of Orochimaru's mouth grinned. Sarutobi was unable to distinguish whether it was a smile or grief. Sensei, do you like the funeral I prepared for you? Orochimaru stretched out his hand and knocked on the two coffins. Two figures walked out of them. Looking at the two figures, Sarutobi Hiruzen instantly sucked in a cold breath. He didn't expect that Orochimaru not only desecrated the dead, but he actually desecrated the two first Kages of Konoha. Orochimaru, you deserve to die. Sarutobi Hiruzen instantly became furious. He thought of the army of the dead in the future Fourth Shinobi World War, and his eyes were suddenly filled with killing intent. Originally, he wanted to escape, but now Orochimaru must die. In the future, he would be more threatening to Konoha than Akatsuki was. At least, Konoha had Naruto to fight against Akatsuki, and Jiraiya also said that when pain invaded their village, Konoha didn't lose anyone. But Orochimaru was different. As long as I don't let Orochimaru's desecration of the dead technique spread, the Fourth Shinobi World War may just. With this in mind, Sarutobi Hiruzen tightened his grip on the adamantine staff and raised the stick's head, pointing it at Orochimaru. I taught you jutsu, but I didn't teach you to be a man. This is my fault. Orochimaru, it's time to settle this. Chapter 49. 49, Make Up Exam. Start. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 49. Chapter 49. Make Up Exam. Start. On the other hand, Sasori saw the leader coming and directly put away all the puppets. Nagato took Pain and Hoshigaki Kisame all the way to the Akatsuki group, glanced at Haiden and Kakuzu, who were in a mess, and looked down quietly. The atmosphere instantly froze. Below, all the shinobis saw the many figures above them while their faces were stunned. It was silent throughout Konoha, pin-drop silence. Jiraiya looked at the people above, and his heart sank. He knew everyone from Akatsuki who entered the exam space last time. He was aware that Zetsu and Obito had left. In comparison, Jiraiya was shocked to find that Akatsuki was only missing Konan, Orochimaru, and Uchiha Itachi. Could it be that Might Guy killed the three of them before death? But, Akatsuki has one new person. Jiraiya stared at Momochi Zabuza, who was being carried by Naraka Pain, and his thoughts raced. Jiraiya never thought Nagato would be so cruel this time, directly bringing everyone in Akatsuki to kill him. Now, Akatsuki members gathered in Konoha. No. It wasn't just Akatsuki. It should be said that all the skilled combat forces in the shinobi world were gathered in Konoha. If there was a battle, the consequences would be unimaginable. And even if he knew all of Akatsuki's weaknesses, he only told Sarutobi Hiruzen. With Jiraiya's knowledge of Sarutobi Hiruzen, he would certainly not tell the other shinobis from other shinobi villages about this information right now. Therefore, Jiraiya wasn't sure who would win the battle. Sensing that the morale of his side had been affected, the fourth Raikage grunted coldly. Akatsuki, are you trying to go to war with the entire shinobi world? The domineering words of the fourth Raikage slightly eased the morale of the shinobi of the 5 major shinobi villages. But they found that the gaze of the Akatsuki crowd above them wasn't on them at all. Not a single person reacted to Ice words. Awkward as hell. Nagato looked at Uzumaki Naruto, who was still unconscious below, his left palm moved slightly, and an invisible attraction arose. The root members below suddenly felt a suction force coming out, and in the next moment, Uzumaki Naruto was already released from his shoulder. Naruto. Jiraiya's complexion suddenly changed. He used his sky walk and directly took off. He chased Uzumaki Naruto and flew towards Nagato. Deva Path's figure moved and appeared in front of him like a ghost, blocking Jiraiya's only way. Just when Jiraiya was blocked by Deva Path, an unexpected figure suddenly appeared from the crowd. She pulled Naruto, who was about to be scooped up by Nagato, with one hand and blasted Nagato with one punch. Nagato's right hand was still dragging the stone ball that sealed Might Guy. When he saw Uzumaki Naruto was being taken away, he swung the stone ball and blasted it at the newcomer. Boom! The stone ball made contact with the fist, and in the next moment, the figure's arm was instantly bent into a bizarre shape. The figure was also attacked by a huge force and shot towards the ground with a bang. Tsunade. Jiraiya, who was in the air, was the first person to see that figure clearly. At that moment, he saw Tsunade fall to the ground after being knocked unconscious by Nagato. He immediately pushed Deva Path, who was fighting with him, away and chased after Tsunade with Sky Walk. Tsunade was falling, and her hand that was holding Uzumaki Naruto automatically released. Nagato controlled Deva Path to pull him up and hold the boy in his arms. Uzumaki Naruto, capture successful. Deva Path's cold words made the faces of all the shinobis below instantly grim. Sure enough, Akatsuki knew that Uzumaki Naruto would stop them in the future, so they came to capture Naruto. Damn it! Below, each of the shinobi gritted their teeth and looked at the Akatsuki crowd, eager to beat them up to death. If a gaze could hurt someone, the Akatsuki's crowd would have died 100 times over. Where is Hyuga Hinata? Nagato turned a blind eye to the eyes below and directly asked the Akatsuki members. Still in the Hyuga clan. Hyuga. Pain nodded and looked at Jiraiya, who flew back holding Tsunade. The stone ball that already had cracks because of her was smashed. Chibaku Tensei, release. With a soft puff, the stone ball directly broke apart into countless gravel and hit the two people. At the moment the stone ball broke, a body wearing green clothing and shining blue suddenly and violently fell. Guy. Jiraiya was overjoyed when he saw that Guy wasn't dead. Guy, Naruto is in their hands. We must get Naruto back. Guy, whose whole body was sparkling with blue mist, heard Jiraiya's words, turned his head to look at Pain in midair. Suddenly, his pair of eyes were wide open. It's you. Almost as if the words were squeezed out from his teeth, looking at the Akatsuki group, Guy looked indignant, full of anger. He didn't think that one day, he would be fooled by the enemy. 8 Gat. Ku. Before he could shout out the opening words, he saw Deva Path holding Uzumaki Naruto in one hand and with the other, his chakra-spewing palm was on top of Uzumaki Naruto's head. If you move, he will die. Guy, stop. Jiraiya hastily spoke out, interrupting Guy's subsequent actions. Guy blinked. This scene. He was inexplicably familiar with it. Jiraiya-sama, as long as I open the 8 gates, my speed can exceed the other sights. I will be able to save Naruto before he kills him. No, we can't gamble with Naruto's life. Jiraiya's face looked grim. He felt the gap between this Nagato and the Nagato he saw in the exam space. More purposeful. More merciless. And on the other hand, more powerful. Jiraiya took a deep breath and handed the unconscious Tsunade to Shizune, who came running in a hurry. Nagato, what are you going to do? I want to achieve peace in the world. You think what you're doing now is bringing peace to the shinobi world? Jiraiya laughed angrily. For the first time, he regretted teaching this guy in the beginning. Perhaps, letting Orochimaru kill him at the beginning was the right choice. Looking at Jiraiya's appearance, Pain suddenly remembered a phrase he had learned that was very appropriate for the current scene. How can a songbird know the ambitions of an eagle? With that, Pain sighed deeply. Until this moment, he deeply felt that the shinobis of the shinobi world were too stubborn. Too foolish. Even if they didn't know how to adapt, the worst thing was that they couldn't accept being corrected and had great ideas. At the moment, the loneliness of being at the top deeply affected him. Uzumaki Nagato was deeply aware of the difficulty of change, the great responsibility, and the seriousness of his mission. However, he must bring peace to the shinobi world. And this was his first step. He needed to start by opening the minds of these foolish people. Today, I will let you know that I'm superior, and I'll also convince people with virtue. Pain smiled coldly and pulled out a golden token in his hand with two big gilded letters on it. Make.up exam. It's the Make.up exam token. The moment they saw the token, everyone panicked. They didn't understand what Pain was doing by bringing out the Make.up token at this time. Shit. Stop him. Narashikaka yelled. Konoha's shinobi heard it and was just about to move. Open the Make.up exam space. Make.up candidates. Everyone in Konoha right now. In the next moment, along with the suppressed excitement in Pain's voice, the crowd suddenly found that they had arrived in a pure white space. Make.up exam space is open. The total number of people taking this Make.up exam is 62,111. This exam mode. Filling in the blanks. Moderator of this Make.up exam. Uzumaki Nagato. Binge. Read next 20 chapters on Pat Rayon. Visit patrayon.com/bingonaireyuto. Chapter 50. 50. This is how you convince people with virtue. TSK. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 50. Chapter 50. This is how you convince people with virtue. TSK. This Make.up exam has too many members, so we will use the group answer method and start grouping. As the words of the exam space fell, everyone was surprised to find that the people around them had changed. No, not only the people around them had changed, but everything around them had changed, including their own clothes. The fourth Raikage looked down at his own body. He was wearing a purple-colored power suit, with the word Thunder on his chest, and nodded with satisfaction. As he saw everything around him, his face suddenly turned dark. The whole space was divided into 7 areas. At that moment, all the shinobis of 7 colors stood on a specific area, like delicate flowers with 7 petals of different colors. Konoha was red, Suna was yellow, Iwa was brown, Kiri was white, Kyumo was purple, samurais of the land of iron were black, and Aim was blue. The Raikage didn't have to ask anyone if they came from the land of iron or Amigakure because the words were largely written on their chests. As long as they weren't stupid, they could recognize it. The fourth Raikage turned gloomy because he saw that his purple Kumogakure had the least number of people. Fuck. If I had known, I would have brought more people. The Raikage felt some regret in his heart. As the saying goes, even if you're stupider than Raza, don't top Deidara. If I had known we would be pulled into the exam space on this trip to Konoha, I would have bought all the advisors from Kyomogakure. Compared with the Red Sea of people from Konohagakure, which was densely packed with thousands of people, his Kyomogakure, which had only 9 people, looked incredibly poor. Shit, why did you assign me to this land of iron? Haydn was filled with a defeated dot-like expression and looked at the 100-member team behind him with disgust. This black outfit is ugly as hell. The same was true for Kakuzu beside him, his face looked unhappy. But compared with Haydn's curses, he had already seen the situation in the field. Uchiha Itachi and Orochimaru were assigned to Konoha, wearing red clothes. Deidara was wearing brown clothes at the moment. Sasori was dressed in yellow, and beside him, Chiyo, the old woman, was looking at him with a complex expression. It's divided by identity. Kakuzu looked back and looked at a girl with red hair behind him. Which village are you from? See. Sir, I come from Kyusugakure. It seems like your Yugakure and my Takigakure are just thrown in with the Land of Irons group as extras. Haydn nodded helplessly and was just about to continue talking when a strong voice rang out. Extras. Heh. What a big mouth. Old man, I don't want to bother interacting with you. It's him. It's him. It's him. Kill him. Kill him. Uchiha Sasuke's eyes are scarlet at the moment. His 3 tomo were slowly turning, staring at the red dot-clad figure in front of him with a deadly stare. What's going on? Orochimaru, who had one arm strangely drooping, froze. His voice was filled with confusion. Not sure. Uchiha Itachi shook his head. Right now, all his attention was on the guy behind him, staring at his back. It was a vicious stare. He didn't have to look behind to see who it was. He could already guess the guy's identity. Hasn't learned to hide his killing intent. Sasuke, you've grown up too slowly. Uchiha Itachi sighed and paid close attention to Uchiha Sasuke. He was paying attention to him because Uchiha Itachi was afraid that Sasuke would be blinded by hatred, lose his mind, attack him in the exam space, and be punished by the space. Terumi Mei was now the happiest person in the whole exam space. Her beautiful eyes fell on 2 tall figures, and her mouth rippled with a beautiful smile. She had been looking for a chance to get in touch with Hoshigaki Kisame from Akatsuki and see if she could invite him back to Kirigakure. Unexpectedly, she got the buy one get one free gift of a Momochi Zabuza. What better chance was there than now? If she didn't have to keep her image, Terumi Mei couldn't wait to dance around in joy. These 2 men, in a sense, were the heroes of Kirigakure, and they were just like her. The only difference was that they both failed. And she had succeeded. Ra. Kuratsuchi's teeth gritted, which made Deidara's soul tremble. He had already cursed Nagato several times in his heart. If you want to make a statement, why did you have to pull me in? And sent me to be in a team with this crazy bitch? Wasn't this pulling me into a trap? Wait. Trap. Suddenly, Deidara's eyes turned. He's got the make.up exam. Yeah. He can answer wrong on purpose. Deidara's eyes lit up as he smiled wickedly. In the center of the 7 high platforms, Nagato and the Pains, exactly 7 people, corresponding to each of the 7 high platforms, loudly proclaimed the rules of this examination. This is a make.up exam, with a total of 8 questions. It will use the rotating team approach to answer the questions. Answering correctly will give you a chance to answer the next question. Answering incorrectly will give the next team on your right the chance to answer. Teams with 2 or more correct answers will be considered as having passed the make.up exam, and those with less than 2 correct answers will be deemed to have failed. There's an analysis for correct answers and no analysis for wrong answers. Teams that answer 2 questions correctly in succession can specify a video analysis. There is no reward for passing in the make.up exam, but a penalty for failure. Wow! After hearing Nagato read out the rules, everyone on the 7 platforms was unhappy. In particular, the Konoha group, who wore red, was the most numerous, accounting for about 99.9999% of the over 60,000 people themselves. At this moment, both the shinobis and civilians yelled out in discontent. Originally, when pulled into space, they were still a little excited. After all, if they answered the questions correctly, they could gain great strength. But now, they looked at Uzumaki Nagato and couldn't wait to curse him to death. TSK, is this what you call convincing people with virtue? This is shit. This is simply a group-wide mass murderer. Nara Shikamaru was stunned after hearing the rules. He didn't expect to hear such disgusting, brazen, terrible rules. There was no doubt that one team would succeed in the Make.Up exam. But the scariest thing was, there was a high probability only one would succeed in the Make.Up exam. And Nara Shikamaru looked at Nagato above, and his heart shuddered. He didn't know if that guy chose this exam pattern and deliberately broke up the Akatsuki group. If this was the case, then this man is terrible. Such scheming. Whether it was reducing the strength of the shinobi world or stimulating the struggle of each shinobi village, it was terrible. Nara Shikamaru looked at Nara Shikaku in shock and found a stunned look at the other party's face. They both remembered. Every member of Akatsuki had a Make.Up exam opportunity. Moreover, the punishment that space gave out wouldn't be as generous as the rewards, right? At the same time, Nagato simply ignored the noise below. He read the small cards given to him by the exam space step by step. To ensure the fairness of this Make.Up exam, this exam will be broadcasted comprehensively. Swish. As Nagato's voice fell, a huge screen suddenly appeared above the crowd. The noise from the crowd suddenly stopped. What's more, they began to tidy up their hair and clothes. They weren't Akatsuki, those rookies. Although they were broadcasted live for the first time, they had long thought about it countless times what they would do if they were in the live broadcast. Now, this was their chance. Agni. Read next 20 chapters on Pat Rayon. Visit patrayon.com/binganayuto.